Alexandra Eala shares the advice she got from a Grand Slam finalist ahead of the Australian Open. Alexandra Eala will head to the Australian Open full of hope, in what will be her first main draw match at the Melbourne event. It marks the completed set for the Filipino, who featured in the other three majors throughout what was a breakthrough 2025 campaign. Just 20 years old, it has been a mesmeric past 12 months, in which she has seemingly broken every tennis record held in her home country. And yet, she remains hungry for more, having just received advice ahead of the Australian Open from a former Grand Slam finalist. Alexandra Eala receives advice ahead of the Australian Open. Speaking to the press in Melbourne, she spoke about everything from the one-point slam to her Filipino fanbase. And, when she was finished lauding her compatriots for their continued support, one reporter then asked her about Leylah Fernandez, a former U.S. Open finalist at the age of just 19, and now 23 and an established star on the WTA Tour. The Canadian will surely have plenty of crucial advice to bestow upon a player like Alexandra Eala. Well, she revealed as much in her answer, noting, "Yeah, I think Leylah is super funny. The advice she gave when I played was to win the last point, laughing. But I was able to ask her about some of her experiences on tour. I'm so thankful to have had those moments, because not everybody gets to talk up close with their idols. I hope I can embody some of what she was able to do and her success, yeah." Eala admitted she'd been surprised by her fans in Australia already, and that's even before the first Grand Slam of the year gets underway. Alexandra Eala's Australian Open dilemma. For 99% of the players who have qualified for the Australian Open, making it into the second week would mark a dream come true. However, Eala finds herself in the unique and unenviable position where, if she did accomplish that feat, it might be tinged with an element of sadness. Event. Yay. Round reached. Australian Open. 2026. TBC, Main Draw. French Open. 2025. First Round. Wimbledon. 2025. First Round. US Open. 2025. Second Round. After all, such is the scheduling for January. The second week of the Australian Open marked the only time where the WTA could fit in their new 125-level event in the Philippines. Eala, as a proud representative of a nation, was naturally delighted at the announcement of this new event in Manila. There are moments in a rising athlete's life that echo with destiny, moments when preparation meets opportunity, and a single piece of wisdom can alter the way they see their future. For Alexandra Eala, the young tennis sensation from the Philippines, the build-up to her Australian Open debut in January 2026 wasn't just about winning matches. It was about absorbing lessons from legends and forging her own path in the world's most unforgiving sport. She arrived in Melbourne with a quiet buzz already surrounding her name. Fresh from memorable victories and history-making successes, ranging from stunning runs in premier tournaments to becoming the first Filipino to win a Grand Slam main draw match, Alex was no longer just a hopeful underdog. She had become a force, respected by fans and peers alike. The day the advice came, it happened during one of the final training sessions before the Open, a serene morning where the Australian sun began warming the practice courts, and the chirp of waking birds blended with the rhythmic thwack of tennis balls. Among the players warming up was Liana, the trailblazing Chinese star and Grand Slam finalist, a woman whose legacy had inspired a generation of Asian athletes. Liana wasn't there just to practice. She was there to share something subtle but profound. Alex had admired Liana for years. She'd watched her play with fiery courage and transformation, a player who had taken the pressure of expectations and turned it into resilience. To many, Liana's career was a milestone. To a young Alex Eala, it was a blueprint of what was possible. They spoke before Alex's final practice. Win the last point, every time. Don't ever let go of that moment. At first, it sounded almost too simple. Not poetic, not deeply philosophical, just an elegant slice of truth. But those 6 words carried a weight that overshadowed long tactical lectures. It wasn't about games won or sets taken. It was about presence, about composure, about fighting for every single point like it was the last breath in a championship match, carrying her nation on her shoulders. Tennis wasn't just a personal dream for Alex. It was a national cause. She had shattered ceilings and rewritten expectations for Filipino tennis. What used to be a distant dream was now a living reality. A 20-year-old woman from Quezon City standing among the world's best, competing on the grandest stages. The advice resonated particularly deeply because it reflected more than winning. It reflected identity. Representing the Philippines meant something larger than herself. It meant carrying the hopes of millions who had never witnessed one of their own on the sport's biggest stages. It was about the collective heartbeat of a community and the inspiration she had become far beyond Manila's courts. A mind game beyond tennis. In the days leading up to her Australian Open opener against a formidable opponent, Alicia Parks of the USA, Alex didn't just practice serves, volleys, or footwork. She practiced attitude. She replayed Leone's advice like a mantra. Every time she trained, she heard those words in her mind: win the last point. In tennis, as in life, success isn't just about talent. It's about belief. It's about the smallest margins, extra focus during a second serve, sharper footwork, a deeper breath before every rally. It's about recognizing that every point, no matter how small, is a universe of possibility in itself. And for Eala, this mindset became transformative. The lessons behind the words. There's a special kind of magic in simplicity. Leone's advice was not tactical. It wasn't something that would show up in statistical analysis or training charts. It was psychological. It reminded Alexandra to treat every moment as an opportunity to rewrite her story. Before that conversation, Eala's focus had been on preparation, on grinding, on refining technique. Afterwards, it shifted. Her focus was on intention. She began to understand that matches weren't just contests of skill, they were battles of presence. She began each practice with renewed purpose. She embraced challenges in ways she hadn't before. Less fear, more hunger. Her footwork became sharper because she treated every step like it could define her next breakthrough. She hit each ball like it carried a piece of her dream, because in a way, it did. Inside the Australian Open village, the atmosphere in Melbourne during a Grand Slam is unlike anything else in sport. It's a vivid tapestry of cultures, languages, hopes, and dreams. For a player like Alex, it was exhilarating and humbling, but it was also intimidating. From the moment she stepped into the Australian Open village, she was swept up in the gravity of the event. Players with decorated careers passed by. Grand Slam champions and seasoned tour veterans lounged in quiet corners. And yet, there was something comforting about the chaos.